riding through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay, Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 No time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Monday to you, sir.
Happy Monday to you, partner. I am doing great on an amazing Monday.
Mo, let's start with this. Anthony Davis, we talked about this during the playoffs. He is one. I'm sorry, not Anthony Davis. Excuse me. Anthony Edwards. He is one that never lacks for confidence, Mo. And as we are gearing up for the Olympics, he does not lack for confidence, Mo. He was asked about his role on Team USA. And if you remember, the last time that Ant Davis was on Ant Edwards, I'm going to do that like every day this morning. The last time Edwards was on a national stage, Mo, he lit it up. He was the guy. And as he is about to take the world stage one more time, he says, quote, "I'm still the number one option. Y'all might look at it differently, but they've got to fit it around me." So, Mo, we know who's on Team USA. We know who is on the Olympic squad. Let me ask you this. Is Edwards the number one option on Team USA?
He might be. And I'm not saying that he's the best player, but he might be the number one option. Remember, when we're in Olympic competition and the way they play, it really is more about teams. So what your leading scorer may average 19 points a game. You might have 5 or 6 guys 15, 16, 17 points. I think LeBron, Steph, some of the older guys, KD, they're going there with the intentions to win the gold. And if it means if Anthony Edwards is on one and is riding him, I think they'll do that. But I think his confidence, I love his bravado. But in reality, the way we play, the way we approach and attack other teams, I don't know if any one single player I would call the guy. It's not set up for the guy. It's set up for a bunch of guys. But I appreciate his confidence.
Mo, I'm sure you saw it or at least heard about it. It was the talk of Laker Nation, Bronny's Summer League debut. It was a 4-point effort for the rookie, which was followed up by some knee swelling and news that he wasn't going to play in the second Summer League game of the season. Just like Dad, everything that Bronny does, it's making headlines, Mo. So everyone was out after his 4-game performance. And of course, who has to comment on it? Dad has to get in there and comment on it. And Dad said a couple of things. He said you can't take anything as far as stat-wise from California Classic and Summer League and bring it once the season starts. The only thing that matters is him getting better and stacking days. That was his initial comment after his first Summer League game. And then they asked LeBron a few days later, after he missed the second Summer League game with his knee swelling, about the noise and everything around Bronny. And LeBron said, Bronny don't care about any of that. Bronny says, F that noise. So, Mo, I look at it and I don't have any issue with anything LeBron said. I just don't know if I want my dad talking on my behalf. I don't know if I need dad saying stuff for me. Remember, I'm already playing with dad. It's always dad. And now dad's saying stuff for me. I get it. You're not going to be able to avoid it, Mo. But I look at the comments. I have no issue with what LeBron said. I'm cool with it. I think he said things that were perfectly fine. But if I'm Bronny, I feel like I get to a point where it's like, ask me. If you want to talk about me,
Exactly.
ask me.
Exactly.
Stop asking my dad questions about me. And Dad, dear God, if they ask you about me, you got one response.
Ask him.
Go ask Bronny.
Thank you. I listened to the response and I was like, there goes LeBron again. It's not necessary. I'm with you. I don't have no problems with him looking out for his son. But when you make those kind of comments, I know if I'm Bronny somewhere, I'm cringing. Like, I could answer that myself. I'm not sure Bronny would say, I don't give a this about that. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds more like LeBron. And I'm like, if I'm Bronny, I'm like, you got to let me speak for myself. You know what I mean? I got this. He's already got an uphill climb trying to set his own path on his own career, with the biggest shadow in the NBA, and you know what I mean, cast over him. I'm with you. I'm good with LeBron trying to look out for his son, but at some point he's got to pull back and just answer the question with, "Go ask Bronny because he could answer better than I could." Nobody knows him better than he does. I watched the game, and my takeaway was he was clearly nervous. He was very tight. Almost all his shots were short, but I think Summer League has value. I disagree with LeBron that it doesn't have value, because if you're being objective, there were guys out there on the floor who weren't very good. They were kind of erratic. They're the kind of guys you look at and go, they're going to need some more seasoning and more development in the G League. But I say that to say this, those guys look better than he did. And I'm judging him strictly the way I would judge any rookie. He didn't have a good game one. It doesn't mean that he might come out and have a 12.7 assist game in game two. In Summer League, what you're looking for is continued improvement, a sign of development that you're getting it, or that you're not overwhelmed. That yes, you're out there with other rookies, but what you want to be able to do, Chris, is separate yourself and go, I'm actually better than a few of these guys that were drafted ahead of me, or I'm better than anybody drafted around me. Like, those are the things you want to show. So that's what I'm going to be looking for going forward. But I disagree with his dad. Summer League has a lot of value. I've seen guys who weren't drafted high come out of nowhere in the Summer League and elevate themselves and actually go on to have good careers. Like, whatever you think of Kyle Kuzma, he came out of nowhere when he was with the Lakers in the Summer League, was the best player in the Summer League. The Lakers won that Summer League. Kuzma's had a good career, was part of a championship team, helped him get the bag with the Wizards. So I do think that don't brush off Summer League, especially, this. If you're one of the top 10 picks, you need to play in the Summer League, no doubt. But you're not worried about your roster spot. If you're picked back 55 through 60, even though I know he has a guaranteed contract, you want to prove you've earned your spot. You do. You don't want the shadow of everybody knows why I'm here. You don't want that. You want people to go, you're here because you belong here.
Mo, the last thing that Bronny needs is to average 5.2 points in Summer League, look like a complete disaster, and then go into the season with a secured spot on the Lakers coming off of the bench, and fans being like, why are we wasting a roster spot on Bronny? Because, it's a real good story, Mo, until you look at LeBron's other comments this weekend. It's, large trucks driving by. It's all good. Until you look at LeBron's other comments this weekend, Mo, and his other comments were, I think we can win more titles in LA.
Yeah, I saw that.
Really? Now, I know, guys. Well, what is he going to say, Chris? He's not going to say that this team doesn't have enough. I get it. I understand it. He's not going to say the other thing. But if you're going to say that, then it better not look like your kid is taking up a roster spot that could be held by someone who is much more talented, who could help bring you a title or help get you into the playoffs or help you win a playoff series. Because, Mo, as great of a story as it is in Los Angeles, Bronny and LeBron playing together, you know how fickle that town can be. The moment fans start to think Bronny is taking up a roster spot that could go to someone better, and they start attaching names to who that better person could be in that spot, it could get ugly quickly if he is a 3 to 5 point player a game throughout all of summer league and he continues to look nervous, and then he gets in his first handful of NBA games and he looks like the same player he looked like in the summer league. I'm not saying he's gonna, but for LeBron to come out and be like, don't worry about summer league, you're right, don't worry about game 1, but when summer league ends, if his numbers are about what they were in game 1, Mo, we should probably be a little concerned going into the season.
And again, I'm saying this from the perspective of not being a Laker fan, but just being a fan of the game of basketball. I'm rooting for him to play well. I'm rooting for him to earn a spot. I am. I just am. But if he plays bad, you know how this works. He can say, or his dad can say he doesn't care, but there's an internal pressure that will mount, right? You can't help but look at a box score and go, oh, so 2 for 7, 1 for 9, struggling on defense, guys. I mean, it's impossible for an athlete not to be aware of how they're playing, if they're struggling. And he's the 55th pick in the draft, Chris. In any draft in the history of basketball, nobody pays attention to the 55th pick in the draft. And it's unfair, but Bronny is going to get the attention that one of the top 5 picks gets. He might get more attention than the top 5 picks. So there is an added pressure, an added element there that a lot of those guys won't have. So I'm not just looking for improvement. I'm looking for when things don't go well, can he bounce back and not let the pressure, not just from the media and the fans, but whatever comes out of his dad's mouth too, wear him down. I'm hoping he can just develop over time. He doesn't have to be the best player in summer league. That's not the thing. But what you want to see is you want to see improvement. You want him to show he belongs. By the way, would you not want that from any rookie on your own team? You'd be saying the same things. If we drafted somebody 20th or 10th, I want to see if the guy's good as they say, he belongs. So that's how I approach it. The problem is with the backdrop of him being LeBron James' son, along with the fact that his dad can't not stop talking, that can wear on a young man over time. And I just hope he can deal with it.
And a lot of Laker fans, Mo, are already building in the excuse. It's just summer league. Everyone calm down. It doesn't matter what he does during summer league. When the games matter, that's when, he's going to get it done. It's the 55th pick in the NBA draft. He was the 55th pick for a reason. He was scouted by most to go as an undrafted pick for a reason. But because he's Bronny and because of his dad, there's already these unrealistic expectations around him. Mo, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't even know if you would know this. But if you went down the list of the last 20 55th picks in the NBA draft, I guarantee you expectations were not very high for the majority of them,
right,
to even make the squad coming out of summer and being on the bench for game 1 of the NBA season.
Facts.
Like, that's just a realistic expectation for the 55th pick is you played well enough to go to the G League and start your career there, and maybe we'll get you up at some point during. That's realistic, I feel.
Or you might play
pick.
Or you might be in Europe. You might play.
Right.
You might. It's one of those kind of things where you might have to play in Europe and come back. Like, that's what happens to most guys picked in the 50s, that they have to take a round-away trip to secure their NBA roster spot. And I'm not beefing about that. I know a lot of people have an issue with that. If your dad has that kind of sway and he can get you there, it is what it is. I have no problem with it. What I'm simply saying is he's not going to be judged like he's the 55th pick in the draft. Fair or unfair, you know it and I know it. They're going to judge him like he was a top 5 pick. And like I said, Laker Nation, they might be like, oh, it doesn't mean anything right now. But when the games do start, when it does matter, and he's on the main roster's bench, but he's not playing, that at some point, like I said, I want to see him earn his spot. He has a spot. Now I want to see him develop over time and show he belongs there. That's all. And I don't think that's asking too much. Either you belong there or you don't belong there.
Mo, the Sacramento Kings pulled off quite the move since we last talked. The Kings are actually just signed DeMar DeRozan $76 million after pulling off the sign and trade for him with the Chicago Bulls. So, Mo, this always circles back somehow to the Los Angeles Lakers. If the Sacramento Kings got DeMar DeRozan, it means the Los Angeles Lakers did not get DeMar DeRozan. And Mo, fair or unfair, I look at this and I go, that's another name that was attached to the Lakers at some point this offseason that the Lakers did not get. So I'm looking at the Lakers roster, Mo, and I'm looking at what they got going on over there, and I'm thinking to myself, who did the Lakers get? Because that was all the talk, right, Mo? All the talk was they finally got money. They finally got some picks. They're going to have the money to sign a third star. They're going to have the picks to pull off some sort of a big move if they don't get the star that they want in free agency. And Mo, we sit here and we look at the Lakers roster this morning after basically almost every single noteworthy free agency domino has basically fallen. And you look at it and you go, they got Bronny. They got Bronny.
And they got Dalton Connect. They got Connect.
They did get Connect. They did. I do like him. But Mo, if you came in, a month ago and said, Laker fan, don't worry. When it's all said and done, you got Dalton and Bronny. Is that a successful offseason? Looking at what they could have had.
Well, no, because I'm not knocking both of them. I love the Connect pick, and I love the Connect because I think he's going to be a good pro. And look, it remains to be seen. Bronny might earn his way. I'm talking about a team where LeBron said, I'm going to take less money if we can go out and get a significant person. They had some movable assets. D'Angelo Russell opted in, which means you could do a sign and trade because he has an expiring contract. I thought once he opted in, it gave them the option to use his contract to lure DeMar DeRozan because what they did was they did a sign and trade and they let the Spurs be the third team. The Lakers could have done the same thing. And I know people are like, well, DeMar DeRozan, would he be a good fit? He doesn't shoot the three. The Lakers need guys late in games that are bucket getters outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis. DeMar DeRozan is a bucket getter. And more importantly, I always keep telling people this is what makes him one of the eunuchs is even when he's not shooting well, he can create offense because he gets to the foul line 9 times a game. And if he gets to the foul line 9 times a game, it also means he helps your team get the other team in the penalty early, which means everybody gets to the foul line more. So why would he not fit? Look, DeMar is not Russell Westbrook. The difference between DeMar and Russell Westbrook is Russ can't shoot at all, period. DeMar, anything inside 18 feet and in, and it's money. It's cash. Not to mention he's still extremely athletic. So I just thought all the talk, and you know this, Chris, is always the Lakers are going to get this and they're going to get that, and they've got a list. They're going after Harden. They're thinking about Paul George, Jonas Valanciunas, DeMar DeRozan. Everybody went somewhere. We're going to get Klay Thompson. No, Klay was like, nah, I'm good. I'm straight. And we're basically bringing back the same team, right? You're bringing back the same team. And there are some pieces that you could add on the outside. I heard they're going to go after Gary Trent Jr., which would be a great pickup for them as far as being a catch and shoot guy. I actually think the Nuggets should pull out all the stops and try to get Gary Trent Jr. because he has the same skill set as KCP, and they just lost KCP. So I think Denver needs to find a way to be really creative and go after him. But you know how this goes, Chris. LeBron, and like you said, LeBron's comments are, yeah, look, we can win more championships for sure. And everybody's going off of, well, the Lakers went to the conference finals the year before last. That's a fact. But the way sports is we judge you off of what you did last, what you did lately. Well, you got knocked out in the first round by the Nuggets. You were good enough to be a play-in team, and you had to win a play-in game to get into the playoffs. I'm looking at the current roster. Yeah, you got 2 top 10 players, and then everybody else, they're okay. But I want to remind people, Dallas got better. Minnesota got better. And a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, Chris, Memphis got healthy. It's like they got all kind of number 1 draft picks. Here comes Morant. Here comes Jaren Jackson Jr. Here comes Desmond Bane. They just got the big kid, Zach Edey, Marcus Smart. That team is going to be a playoff team. So I can tell you right now, already somebody that made the playoffs last year, they're not going to make it this year. So it just got that much tougher. I get LeBron's and right. What are you supposed to say? Can you still win championships? You're not supposed to say like, no, it's over for us. I'm probably just going to work out with Bronny and stuff. We're not looking to win. No, he said what you're supposed to say. Like, of course you have to say that. But and I know how LeBron operates. Around mid-season, when we're about 30 games in, he's going to be like, we really could use a shooter. Need some more time. I mean, me and AD are doing what we can, but it's an every year thing. And around free agency, the Lakers are going to go out and they're going to make a move, and usually they don't. It doesn't happen. I think the Lakers are a play-in team again. They may win that game or not. But who knows? Maybe they're going to end up playing the Kings in the play-in and they'll lose to them. I'm just saying that the West is so talented top to bottom, and you didn't add any talent. You didn't do anything. How do you say with a straight face, like, yeah, we're title contenders? I don't see it.
I don't see it either. But what I do see is JG about to join us here up on the screen to talk some Major League Baseball. JG, welcome in on Monday morning. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Good morning. I got a question for you, Chris. Where are you at that's wearing a sweatshirt outside right now?
I am in upstate New York in the mountains.
Oh, I'm jealous. It's been 100. It's been 120 degrees out here in California. I've been cooking and burning out here. It's been ridiculous. I'm jealous of you right now.
120, JG.
I saw you post some outside pics over the weekend. And I was like, JG looks warm in those pics.
It was so we sat out here in Palm Springs a few days ago. It was an all-time high, 124 degrees. It's cooking out here.
JG, I wanted to start today off by jumping into the Wayback Machine. All right, I want to bring us back to 1999, 25 years ago, JG, and I just want to read to you the American League All-Star Game starting lineup from 1999. Catcher, Ivan Rodriguez, Rangers. First baseman, Jim Thome, Indians. Second base, Roberto Alomar, Indians. Third base, Cal Ripken Jr., Baltimore Orioles. Shortstop, Nomar Garcia-Parra, Red Sox. Outfield, Ken Griffey Jr., Mariners. Kenny Lofton, Indians. Manny Ramirez, Indians. DH, Jose Canseco, Devil Rays. Two things, JG. One, what a freaking all-star team that was. And number two, how the hell did the Indians not win a title in the 90s? If you look at the 96-ish to 2000, you look at the players the Cleveland Indians had on their team. I know the Yankees got their thing going on there in the late 90s, but I just read you the starting lineup. There wasn't a Yankee on that starting lineup. Now, Jeter was on that team. Bernie Williams was on that team. David Cone was the second best starter of that league. So Yankee fans, you had the number two options across the board, but there wasn't a single argument that any Yankee should have been in the starting lineup for the American League All-Star team that year for the All-Star game. And there were 4 Indians on it, JG. What the heck?
Well, if you think back to the 99 Indians, you had Omar Vizquel at shortstop. You had David Justice and Albert Bell in the outfield with Kenny Lofton and Manny Ramirez. I think Bell was probably DHing a little bit more at that point too. I mean, Carlos Baerga. I mean, that was a really good loaded team. And you know, you had a lot of those kind of teams that were playing in those late 90s, early 2000s. You know, it just got overshadowed by the Yankees in that era. You know, so I say that reluctantly because that was the Yankee era that we were seeing the dynasty of the Yankees. But I mean, you had a lot of loaded teams like that. Again, we talked about the Mariners. Mariners, had a really good ball club for a long time during the late 90s run. You had the Braves as well during their run of the 14 straight division titles. You had the Mets were actually really good for a while too during that period. So yeah, I mean, if you look back and then that team, that 99 All-Star team with the loaded team that you had with the Indians players, I mean, it's a wonder. It's a wonder you didn't have a team like that at least win one World Series during that period. But you can say that for quite a handful of teams during that period because that was the Yankee dynasty that we got a chance to see and reluctantly watch and pull off what they did, in that run that they had.
JG, you look back and you watch that video from that All-Star game and you watch the announcement of the All-Star teams for both sides. And if you just turned off the announcer and you just listened to the fan reaction, you would think you were at a wrestling event. That's how loud the audience popped for some of these guys that were being announced for the All-Star game. And then you fast forward 25 years and you look at where baseball is today. And you're like, oh, my God, like if we could get back to that, if we could just go back 25 years and that, because you look at the All-Star game last year, yeah, a couple of guys got pops. The hometown guys are always going to get the pops. And I know the first thing people are going to say is, well, Chris, they played the game in Fenway. Fenway's a baseball town. In those situations, Fenway's not only going to give it to the hometown kid for Nomar and Pedro who started that game, but they respect talent in situations where, the Red Sox aren't playing. I get all of that, JG, but I don't care where you put the All-Star game the last 10 years. That's outside of the hometown guy that might be playing on that All-Star game. You're not getting 11 consecutive pops the way you got it back 25 years ago for that All-Star game. What do you like the path that Major League Baseball is on for the next 10 years as far as not necessarily getting back to where they were in the late 90s and early 2000s, but just for the validity of the sport over the next decade as far as it's not America's pastime anymore, JG. It's not even – I mean, I love the experience of a baseball game. I would much rather go to a baseball game than go to an NBA game because I feel like a baseball game is an experience. I don't mind sitting there, and I know they're a little bit shorter now, which helps fans out a little bit. But even before they were shorter, I didn't mind sitting at a baseball game for 3 hours. You're sitting there. You know how it works, JG. You're usually going with a diverse crowd. Either you're the one that knows the stuff, so you're educating people around you, or you're going with someone a little older and they're sharing their baseball knowledge from when they were younger or things that they saw. You got the guys around you who are like, well, last time I was here, this happened, or I remember 20. It's such an experience. Plus, you got the foods. It's a whole thing, JG. And I feel like there aren't many sports that give you that type of experience on a Wednesday night. And that's what Major League Baseball does. And I still think to a certain extent they still do that. But then you look at the sport as a whole and you're just like, man, like it wasn't that long ago they were there and now they're here. How do we get back there, JG?
Well, to kind of, I feel in a way, baseball is still, in my eyes, America's pastime. It is not America's favorite sport anymore. There's a difference between a pastime and favorite sport because we are synonymous again. Because again, it's the boys of summer. It's synonymous to what we are as a country. But you can be America's pastime and not be America's favorite sport. That's how I view on that. I don't. You're absolutely right, because I remember even though I was 9 years old during the 1999 All-Star game, I remember everything about that All-Star game. That was I watched every pitch of every inning of that ball game. That was a great game. The fanfare of it, because obviously it was also, you had Ted Williams come out in pregame as well, and he got the standing ovation. It was a lot of buzz in the air because of Ted Williams there. You had Hank Aaron there. You had a lot of the old timers, the Hall of Famers that came out during that All-Star game. So there was a lot of buzz already for that. And you're absolutely correct that for the announcement of both teams, there was a lot of cheering, and then the National League, there was a lot of booing. Actually, I remember there was a lot of booing in the National League team. It was just even in the All-Star game, you had the fans at Fenway just absolutely going out, saying, "Hey, we want to cheer the American League to win the game," even though at the point it didn't mean anything, because we know how that changed and what. But that's the problem. I feel what we've done so much is we've had to change so much of the game to try to get back to where we were in the 90s of the popularity. The problem is it'll never be that again. I don't see anything changing to make Major League Baseball as popular as it was in the 90s, in the late 90s, really, because I remember the strike happened and that killed a lot of momentum that baseball had. They got a little bit back from the late 90s, the steroid era, and then it killed it off again when they had the investigations. I don't think there's any way we're going to get back to the popularity of it, because the NFL has done everything. Even though there is controversy in the NFL, they do it right with the marketing of the players. They do it right with the national media, national TV games that they have. It's almost, again, you have games being around the country, every weekend. You're talking about an event. It's an entire day's worth of Sunday. You're planning your entire Sunday around watching, ideally 3 games at noon, 4 o'clock, and in prime time on Sunday Night Football. You're making sure, hey, I got to go to church at 7, 8 in the morning to get done at 9, cooking food for lunch at 10, get ready for kickoff at noon if you're in the Central Time. So everything's planned around that. You don't have that in baseball, obviously, because, again, it's games every day. But the popularity of it's regionally. There's a difference between baseball and the NFL. Baseball's popularity is regionally. The NFL's popularity is nationally. And that's the hard part Major League Baseball will never be able to fix. And until they, get rid of the blackouts, because that's the number one thing. When NFL had blackouts, I don't remember, we all remember, NFL at one point had blackouts. They did away with it. They did away with blackouts. So you can watch your team no matter what. And I know Jacksonville, I remember recently had some issues with blackouts in the last few years, but the NFL said we're doing away with that. Major League Baseball still hasn't gotten to that point yet. So you're still going to get blacked out of your game if there's issues that, with attendance and whatnot, there's still going to be blackouts. So it saddens me. It saddens me because I do remember, even though I was young, I remember the popularity of baseball. And I know that the issues that they've had and the controversies they had and the scandals they've had, it's been one after another after another. Every decade, there's been something popping up in Major League Baseball that's been shooting themselves in their own foot. That's why I just don't think there's ever going to be the popularity that it was again. You're going to have the baseball purists, the diehards, the traditional fans are going to love it, and they're going to be engaged every game, watching every game, listening to every game. But that's not what allows you to grow, and that's the general fan that you have to try to get, and that's what the NFL has dominated over the last 20 years is the general fan. Baseball has not been able to get that, even though they make changes and they think they're doing the things the right way, and they're getting the popularity. They're trying to get the popularity up with that general fan. It's just not going to be enough. Baseball is always going to be behind the NFL, and right now even to the NBA.
Hey, JG, I have a quick question. Do you think that baseball can do more with outreach to younger kids, to the teens? It seems like, at least I know that they have less and less younger African Americans playing baseball. They're not playing baseball the way they used to. They're going to basketball, they're going to football, they're going to other sports. I guess the question is, can they do more in terms of outreach to teenagers and younger kids?
Well, Major League Baseball does do a lot of outreach. They have the MLB RBI program in all the urban cities. In New Orleans is very big on one where Ron Washington has a big program in New Orleans. You have one in Dallas-Fort Worth. You have in New York. So Major League Baseball does a lot of the outreach that they can do to into the inner cities to try to get the minority kids involved more in the sport. The problem is this, and this is really, you can say with all youth sports, it's a lot harder with the financial side of things. It is a lot of money, and that's just on the minority side. It's for all kids. All kids and families struggle. I talk to kids and families back in Dallas Fort Worth, and not just the team wise, not just the equipment wise, but joining a team that you're going to get developed and get better. You're going to enjoy to play the game. That's what you want. You want those kids. You want those athletes that that have that ability to go play at a higher level and learn and grow the game. But it's so expensive to do that. And that's where the MLB RBI program comes in play, where it's a little bit cheaper to make sure that you can get all the outreach that you need necessary to be able to do so. But it's still harder to do. Is there more that Major League Baseball could do? Absolutely. In any sport, in any person or any program you can think of, there's always something you can sit back and say, we have to do more. Because you're absolutely correct. You're losing those kids to the NFL or to football. You're losing those kids to the NBA. Even right now, though, football, a lot of cities say, well, hey, we don't want tackle football until you get to high school or something like that. Okay, right. Well, NFL, what did the NFL do? Perfect, not a problem. We'll do flag football then. So they're still involved in the sport. Oh, by the way, it is cheaper to play flag football than it is to play regular football, because you're not have to get the equipment as much. You just need cleats and gloves, and you're ready to go, because the league itself provides the flags. So they made an adjustment on the NFL with the flag football leagues that they created. I know Drew Brees is very big on the flag football leagues around the country. They found a way to make it more accessible to get those kids who may not be able to afford the equipment or whatnot. They found a way to make it accessible. The NBA is the same thing. You're able to. It's a little bit. Their programs they create. It's a little bit easier financially to do that. Baseball hasn't figured that part out. I think that's the hard part for them, because everything is so more expensive. The equipment is so expensive. But you have programs around the country that are doing a lot of the work. I volunteered at quite a few bit in the programs in Dallas Fort Worth. I've done a little bit in New Orleans too. So I've gotten firsthand this experience to see that there is programs out there. There is resources that are being invested into the cities that to try to get the outreach of the minority kids that are out there. There are always more that can be done, and I think that is a true statement that could be made. There are always more, that at least to try to get it to grow, because I think that's a huge aspect of. We see that in Major League Baseball, that we look at the Latin American guys that are playing. There's a lot of Latin American players, because there's an investment in those programs to get those kids from the Dominican, from Venezuela, from Puerto Rico. You're able to get a lot of those outreach. You have to find a way to expand in the United States too on that side of it. And I think that's the hard part Major League Baseball is still working on. They're still doing a lot, but there's still more that can be done to get those kids out also.
KG, is part of it, obviously there's a financial part as far as what they're spending. Is there a financial part as well, do you think, as to what they're making? Because so many times you look at players in college who played both. They played football and they played baseball. And you'll hear stories about how they were drafted to play for this Major League Baseball team. They could go the baseball route, but a lot of them go the football route. Is it a situation where, because you know how it works, JG, you get drafted to a Major League Baseball team, even if you're good, and it's changed a little bit this past season, because we've seen some guys who have never played a single inning of Major League Baseball cash in with some pretty big contracts. But generally speaking, the way it works is you get drafted to play Major League Baseball, you're going to go sit and you're going to go have to work your way up for a few years. And, if you're not, expected to be that upper elite top echelon talent, it might be a 2, 3, 4 year process before you break into Major League Baseball and have yourself a good to above average season. But it's going to take you a minute, JG, before you start making the money. Whereas in the NFL, you look at it and you're like, man, like if I go in the first round of the draft, I'm getting paid a good chunk right away. I'm playing right away. And then, by the time that these MLB guys might be finally getting their Major League Baseball break and kind of earning their spot on the big club roster, I'm getting my second deal. And if I'm as good as I think I am, I'm cashing in on my second deal. Do you think the money aspect plays any role in these decisions for some of these bigger or more talented athletes coming out to have the option of both?
So not necessarily the money side of it. It's more of the time. It's the time that you spend in the minors, the 2 years. A lot of, if you play a position, if you're a position player, you're more likely spending 2 years in the minor leagues, 2-3 years tops, and then you get to play then you get to be in the big leagues, and then you're another 2 to 3 years before you're getting. And it's 2 to 3 years, and it's really probably 3 to 4 years of your arbitration years before you get the big contracts. So you're talking about 7 years that you're looking at before you're getting the big contract. Whereas in the NFL, year 3, year 4, you're already in negotiations for your second contract, and that's the thing. That's what, if we look at Kyler Murray was a first-round pick in baseball. He was the number 1 pick in football, and weighing out the options. Well, hey, I can go get guaranteed money right now in the NFL because the timing. Well, the timing is obviously I have a 5-year contract. It's a first rounder in the NFL. But by year 3, I can start. By the end of year 3, I can start negotiations. By year 4, I can sign my new extension and go from there. Whereas there was no guarantee in 4 years he was going to get a big contract in baseball because he was going to spend 2 to 3 years. And nothing against Kyler. I've watched Kyler in person play baseball. It was going to be 3 years at minimum of him in the minor leagues, even though he was a first-round pick. There was a lot of work that he needed to be done in the game. So you're talking about at least minimum 3 years in the minors. And then you're talking about another 4 years in big league play of arbitration, of getting through the arbitration before he can even get through a negotiation of getting a contract. Now, you're right. You're saying there are guys who in their first year in the major leagues, or even their last year in the minor leagues, they're getting big contracts offered immediately. These teams are making investment opportunities, and that's changing the landscape of the young players right now. But those guys are the exception to the rule because they have dominated the minors. They're saying, well, you're the future. You're our face of the franchise. You're going to be the guy that we're building the program around. Not everybody is going to get that contract in AAA who are the top prospect and about to be signed to a long-term deal from there. We haven't seen that. Again, Jackson Holliday, who's the first-round pick a couple years ago, 2 years ago, he hasn't gotten that contract yet. So you're talking about 2 years later right now, we're seeing Jackson Holliday struggle a little bit in AAA, working his way through it, but he hasn't gotten that money yet. So we're already in that timeline of 2 to 3 years space. Whereas, again, as I said, in the NFL, 2 to 3 years, 3 years, you can start talking and negotiating. By year 4, you can sign the new extension. So it's more about time than just the money itself. So we know, there's a lot of money in baseball. We've seen it. I know the NFL is starting to get a little creeping up onto that because you see wide receivers making big money. The quarterbacks obviously are making big money, but not everybody. What you see, there's still a little bit of a gap in the money based off position. You're a player in baseball, you're making $200 million no matter what, more likely, or if you're making $150 million in baseball, and if you're a top player, you're going to be in the $300 to $400 million contract range, which is what the quarterbacks make in the NFL. So, again, I don't think it's necessarily about the money. It's just more about time and how long it takes you to get that money.
JG, always a pleasure having you here on In the Mornings. We'll see you tomorrow.
Appreciate you, JG. Have a good one.
As always, guys, appreciate it.
So, Mo, we opened up with some NBA talk, and we're going to pivot back to that right now. In case you were wondering, Mo, Kawhi Leonard has no issue with Paul George heading to the 76ers. Why do people ask questions like this? What the heck was Kawhi going to say? He shouldn't have left me. Why did he go? Of course he's going to be like, I don't care. Let him go do his thing.
Right. I mean, he could have turned around like that turncoat, that unloyal son of a.
Right.
No, I think that Kawhi understands that the pairing of him and Paul George was a very hype pairing. But look, in reality, the ultimate goal was to win a title. They failed to do so. That pairing, it was a failure in the bigger picture, right? That the goal to win a title was a failure. And look, I always say this: the injury gods shine on some guys more than others. For whatever reason, LeBron James has been gifted with health. And for the better part of his career, same for Steph Curry, whereas Kawhi Leonard, not so much. Paul George, not so much. It's just the way it is. I don't know why it is. It just is. And that greatly impacts what happens. But good for Kawhi. Like I said, he could only give the basic answer, Chris. He couldn't really go, that son of a bitch said he was going to stay or something like that. Like, look, in the end, he knows the Clippers weren't offering Paul George a max. he knew that Paul George knew this was going to be his last big deal. So he's going to take the money. And to be fair, in the Eastern Conference, on the Sixers, he has a better chance to win a title there than he ever would with the Clippers.
Mo, $1 million on the line, briefcase in front of you. All you got to do is answer correctly, yes or no. Does Steph Curry retire as a Warrior?
Yes.
I agree. Yes.
Yes.
Steph came out this weekend and said he plans on retiring as a Warrior. I listened to the entire clip and I said, yeah, that makes sense. They're not going to let you go anywhere.
No, he's their Kobe. He's their guy. And whether they make another run or not, he is Teflon in that area. And that's their guy. I don't know when he'll retire. I'm not in a rush for it to happen because I enjoy watching him, but I can't fathom Steph Curry in another uniform. I think he's going to be a Warrior from the beginning to end, period. I can't say the same for Draymond, but I think Steph's never going anywhere.
Mo, it's a brand new week here on Coffee and Sports, which means we have to dedicate our normal 3 or 4 minutes to your favorite player in the NFL, and that is wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk, because my boy just keeps doing things. Mo, over the weekend, he got everybody talking again because he went back to social media and he is posting pictures of Commanders practice film featuring Jayden Daniels. Once again, that Jayden Daniels connection. Once again, the Washington Commanders connection, which is weird because a couple of weeks ago, reports came out that there was a trade offer floated to Washington and Washington declined it. But then Aiyuk seemed all upset that there was even a trade offer in the first place after the team said they weren't looking to trade him. But yet he keeps posting Washington Commanders stuff like he wants to go to Washington. It's the strangest thing ever, Mo. But I want to tackle it from this point of view. At what point does this start to affect QB1? At what point does this start to impact Brock Purdy? Let's say we go into the season and Aiyuk is still on the team and he's choosing to play, but he's not getting the football. Not because Purdy doesn't want to pass it to him, just because game flow. He's not getting the football. Because I guarantee you, when Aiyuk goes into the season, he's already got circled on his calendar NFL trade deadline. Because that's what he's looking at. He's going to go into this season, if he chooses to play, which he could still sit out, but he's going to go into the season with the trade deadline circled, thinking to himself, let me ball out these first few weeks of the NFL season. Let me show the world how great I am, and then they can get me the hell out of here. Which is great, Mo, if you ball out and you show the world how great you are. But what if, game one, it's a subpar game. It just was, the game flow wasn't right against the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. Then game two comes around, and in the first quarter, he's got one target. Purdy underthrew the pass. It wasn't a catchable ball. Now we're going into quarter two. At what point does this become an on-the-field issue with quarterback one? Because I think that's our next stop. I think the next stop is if he's not putting up gaudy numbers the first few games of the season where he can puff his chest out and be like, see, I am the guy here. Right. And it's starting to look like he isn't necessarily the guy, but he's just a nice piece. Well, gee, Mo, that just takes away his entire market. Not only potentially at the trade deadline, but also if that's the kind of season he has where it's just it's a good season, but not a great season. And you talked all that mess and you did all those things. Mo, you know how those NFL waters turn. It's going to be like, remember you, huh? Remember right. You, big guy, 70 catches, 941, 6 touchdowns. A lot of guys can do that. A lot of guys can do that in the NFL. And they're not making wide receiver one kind of money, Aiyuk. So, I don't know, Mo. I'm not saying it's going to be an issue, but I could see it being an issue with QB1 the first few games of the season if he's very similar to Stephon Diggs, if he's not getting his balls.
The thing about it is, you have to remind people is that the way Kyle Shanahan calls their offense, the weapons that they have, it's an inclusive offense. How do I know that week one it might be set up to where Christian McCaffrey gets 30 carries and he might get 5 catches. And Debo gets, 9 targets for 87 yards, and Kittle gets 7 targets for 90 yards. Like, it's an inclusive offense. And he's a product of that offense, but he's not the engine that makes that offense go. It's Kyle Shanahan, it's Christian McCaffrey, and whether people want to believe it or not, it's Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is surprisingly mature for his age. I think that he's going to go out with the idea like we're trying to win a Super Bowl, and the play design calls for Brandon Ayuk, you're the third option on that play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go through my reads, you're the third read, or when you're the first read, if it's not open, I'm going to check down. Like, I think you're right. Ayuk's going to come out with, I'm going to ball out and look, maybe be top 3 in yards and receptions early in the year to build up my value. Look, how do I know that Kyle Shanahan won't be like, I think I'll call the offense in a way where he won't ball out? Like, I'm just saying, like, that's not impossible because he's doing everything he can, Chris, to get traded. Like, he's doing everything but yell out, trade me. But he's doing things that any other organization would be upset and go, this guy's being such a jerk. And I mean, the stuff he's doing on social media is so over the top. But I think the Niners are like, well, it's not like he's not under contract. Like, you are under contract. So I don't know about next year, but this year you're going to be on our team and you're going to be part of our team. And it's up to you whether you want to show up and give us your best effort. If you don't want to play well, that's just going to hurt your value when you are a free agent. So I'm just saying, you might want to like put your head down, be a pro, and just play more. What's the line? Well done is better than well said. So I think he needs to focus on that part, the well done part. I think the Niners would like to move him, but I don't think they're on a timetable.
Nor do I think they want to move him with, any amount of time or in any time period that's beneficial to him.
No, not at all.
I'm sure he would love to get moved right now, give himself the entire rest of the summer to pick up on the new offense, get accustomed with his new quarterback. That would be ideal for him. But Mo, he's done nothing that's been ideal for the San Francisco 49ers since the Super Bowl ended. Since the Super Bowl came to a close, this man has done nothing for this team to make their lives easier. So if I'm the 49ers, if I know we're trading him, we are going to wait until the last possible minute to make the move, because why are we going to do him any favors after they have been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Correct.
Because of this guy, Mo, for months now.
And it's insane to think this, but this guy's trolling his own team. He's been trolling his own team wanting a raise. And I get wanting the raise, but that's not how you go about getting a raise. That's not how you go about getting traded. Matter of fact, like you said, if and when they decide to move him, they're going to do it without telling him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's going to find out from Twitter.
Right. He's going to be on his way to practice, and then he's going to look on his phone like, let me check out some TikTok, and they'll be like, Brandon, you get traded. Like, that's what's going to happen. He's going to find out that way.
And when he rolls up, the box is out front. BA on the box. There's your stuff.
What is that thing when they go? He's like, my key card's not working. I can't get into the what's going on?
Weird, guys. Weird. Well, before we get out of here, we had 80 NFL coaches, executives, and scouts rank the top 10 running backs in the NFL going into the season. Here is the list. 5 up, the top 5. The top 5, we start with number 5, which is Jonathan Taylor for the Indianapolis Colts. Number 4 is Saquon Barkley for the Eagles. 3 is Nick Chubb for the Browns. 2 is Breece Hall for the New York Jets. And the number 1, obviously, is Christian McCaffrey. Any issue with that top 5?
I'm a big Breece Hall fan, but I don't know
2?
that he'll. Yeah, I don't think he should be that high. I don't think it should be 2. I would have had him 5. I would have had him 5. And I totally respect what he can do, but he is coming off that major, and I know he had a whole year to go through that, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does. But look, if you're going to go off of if you're healthy, I would argue you can make a strong case that Saquon Barkley and the Eagles offense might be too, because in a lot of ways his skill sets are kind of similar to Christian McCaffrey. So I think Saquon, I think when it's all said and done, I think he should be at least top 3. So look, I'd love to put Nick Chubb in the top 5, but he's coming off a major injury, and it usually takes you a year to get through year 1 to come back year 2 and be yourself. So I wouldn't have him in the top 5. I wouldn't, for obvious reasons. You and I talked about this. I wouldn't have Derrick Henry in the top 5. I don't even know how he fits in their offense. But the easiest thing to pick was 1. And I'm not saying that as a Niners fan. If you're a football fan, 1 should have been the easiest pick.
And let's not forget, Jonathan Taylor plays for a team where we don't even know if they like him. We don't even know how the Colts feel about Jonathan Taylor.
Well, we know the owner doesn't like him. We know they're not good. But yeah, that's a weird situation there. And obviously you have Richardson coming back, which basically this will be Richardson's rookie year, right?
Yep.
Basically.
Yep.
And so that's a lot. If Richardson is good, then I think Jonathan Taylor will be a 1,300-yard back. But if Richardson struggles, people are going to walk 9 men up in the box and be like, we're just going to smash Jonathan Taylor because we have nothing to fear, and he's going to have a long season.
Mo, take us to the close on a Monday, sir.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Coming off of a long, kind of like a vacation for Coffee and Sports. We appreciate your support. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. JG will be back here with us talking some Major League Baseball. And, of course, we're going to have more NBA and NFL notes, all of that and more. Coffee and Sports, it's the morning show, powered by Wire to Wire.